Welcome back to another week of Eye of the Storm, a Guelph Storm podcast with myself, Ryan Drury, the voice of your Guelph Storm on Rogers TV. And man, oh man, is it ever fun to be a Guelph Storm fan right now. And I'm very pleased to be joined by a good friend of all of Storm Nation, the Vice President of Business Operations for your Guelph Storm, Matt Newby. Matt, how are you, brother? It's pretty exciting times to be involved with the Guelph Storm.
It is awesome. I'm coming up on almost a 1 week anniversary for myself finding out. So it's been a fun week and a few of these, and a lot of people that have come up and stopped us to say how happy they're, and people coming into our office, and it's been great. And I don't think we could have expected more.
The Memorial Cup is coming to the Royal City in 2027. It's going to be magical. Now, I know, having already chatted with you a little bit on another show that I host,
Right.
I do a few of those. I know that the kind of genesis of the idea started a few years ago, after COVID, where everything got bumped back a year, and essentially the OHL's turn to host lined up with 2027. And of course, the bicentennial of Guelph, founded in 1827. That was kind of the genesis of the thought of this. But this has been a really long and arduous process for yourself and the entire front office. Walk everybody through a little bit, if you can, like what this whole experience has been like.
It's been awesome, and I think if I want to just kind of correct something from my own end, and I've done it, like I said, I've done a couple interviews, and I think while it was largely myself and a couple other people working specifically on this bid, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of thank a lot of the other people in my staff, and you know who they are. And just because they didn't necessarily work on this bid, I wouldn't have had the time to do what I do and the time to put this bid together without, Lisa and Hunter and Sarah, and I'm sure I'm missing people, and Kaya picking up stuff that they've never done before. Because generally, I mean, I've got a full-time job. And I've got a full-time job that requires me to do a lot of stuff with game-to-game basis and finance stuff. And if they weren't kind of pulling up, doing more than they normally do, I wouldn't have had time. So I want to kind of get that out of the way before we talk about it. But as far as we talked about what the genesis of it was. As far as putting this together, we've expressed an interest going back. I think we reached out to Cole Butterworth and a few other people in the league about a year and a half ago and said, can I start getting some of that bid package, looking ahead 2 years? And I think at that time they gave us the Saginaw one. We reached out to the Saginaw group. We took our whole staff to Saginaw as well. And I don't know if many people know that, but a lot of staff and their family went down to Saginaw to watch that event. It was first class, and that's one in a lot of ways we want to emulate. But we went down there with a lot of our research and firsthand stuff that we wanted to see, and knowing that it wouldn't be back in this market in the OHL until 2027. So we took everybody down there, made a lot of notes, came away with some great ideas and stuff that I think, like I said, we'll try out and put in place. And some stuff we saw and immediately knew we could improve on, and other stuff we saw and thought we have to replicate that. So it goes back, I guess, as far as that from a workflow. And then at that point, once I got that document from Cole, it was really starting to dig in and say, how do we make this work in Guelph? We knew what we were going in terms of venue. There's minimums that they have for a bid. We don't want to price this at a level and where I've got people that are almost resentful. I mean, we've got a loyal fan base. We don't want to go in this and say, here's your $900 ticket package and say, well, that's great, I can't afford it. Or that's great, I can do that, but I can't come back and buy season tickets next year. So we don't want to do that. So when we started getting that package, we really started crunching numbers to say, how can we make that happen? I think the next step from there was reaching out to the city, and that's where the bicentennial piece came in and say, look, we want to do this. We want to make it right. And I think for this event to be what it should be, for this event to be as big as it could be, we need this to be an event that takes over the whole city and not just hockey fans. It needs to be an event that reaches everybody. And when we started having those discussions with the city, we started talking about numbers and saying, this is how we can get there. We'll do our best. This is a zero profit thing from us. We're coming away with $0 from a profit standpoint as a team. How do we get there? So we worked with the city. At that point, it went to council. I think before it got to council, I think there was a little, I'm not going to say they weren't overly optimistic with the ask from council for the people that we worked with. And then it came through and I was almost unanimous at council. And again, positioning this as it is, it's a celebration of 200 years. And it only comes around, you're going to guess, once every 200 years. And to put these things together, to bring Guelph into the spotlight, to kind of have a party in our city, but also to invite 20,000 people from outside of the city, from across North America, hockey fans from all over the place. It's just a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I know that the city saw that, and Mayor Guthrie saw that, obviously, as a fan and the biggest supporter of our city. And it all started coming together at that point. From there, we move on to the formal bid process where there was the four teams that put the bid in. We found out, I think, within a week or two of that, that we were down to final two, ourselves and Kitchener, and obviously put about a 150-page document together, submitted it to the league that went through everything. And then we got this great bid presentation. And the bid presentation within that document, it says, you're going to have 4 hours to tell a story. And I'm going on, so you can jump in any minute now. But you have 4 hours to tell the story and tell a story of what a Memorial Cup in Guelph would look like, or a Memorial Cup in your city would look like. And we took that to heart and we went with it and ran with it and put something together that, I mean, obviously looking back and seeing the end result, it worked. It was different than I know for the committee that came through. They're blown away. They said, we've never seen it done like this, which was great. We left that meeting, kind of closed our doors those days. And as a group, myself and Paul and Ken, who will be the co-chair or vice chair and chair of the committee, our host committee, and said, wow, like this was great. And again, I may have said it on your other show, but we were walking along in the tour with 5 people we didn't know. And from time to time, each one of them, I think, turned to us on our own off to the side and said, you guys are killing this. Like, this is awesome. The one person said, and this was a Hockey Canada, said he'd never seen this because the World Junior bids, this is everything. He said, I've never seen a bid like this, which again, it was a really, really proud moment. The whole thing was a proud moment for us. And I don't want to, I'll let you ask another question, but it was fantastic. And it's exactly how we planned it. And anytime you do anything that works out to plan, especially where 4 hours to where it ended almost to the minute, we had 4 hours, we had bang on the minute, right on the nose. We went from stop to stop to stop. I think there were 7 stops in total, and everything was great. All the speakers we had were great. We had alumni from each of the Memorial Cup teams at each spot, and it was great. I read Tony's article about the popcorn. That wasn't us. That was the city. That was Ryan Giles from the city. And I mean, we had other really neat little details, but that was one where we came in. We walked across the street from the River Run Center because we did our video on what's the backstage, the giant screen they have there. Opened the doors to the gate two, the main gate, and immediately you could smell it. And it was great. And everybody's like, wow, this is, and he had all the concessions open. That stuff we knew. We knew it was going to look like a game day. But the popcorn, as silly and small as it sounds, was the immediate thing where these guys were like, do you have a game tonight? Or do you have another event tonight? I'm like, no, this is just the city coming together and put it together for us, which was great. And I think that was the theme where everything worked with the partners we had at the city. Everything just kind of worked out. Long
It's
answer.
those it's those fine details that we want the long answer. That's what the fans
Yeah.
want. They're interested in how this all happened. And yeah, the smell of popcorn and beer nuts, that's the
Yeah.
Sleeman Center. And I
Yeah.
think that obviously you guys put a heck of an effort into selling that. And I want to dive into some specifics of how, the tour went and everything. But I want to touch on something that's interesting that I knew about, but I don't think a lot of people realized that you talked about was going down to Saginaw. And it's funny, Matt. We live in a weird internet-driven era where there's just like I don't know what it is. People just seem to love to jump on the negativity train. And I remember when Saginaw got the Memorial Cup, and people were dumping on it, and they ended up pulling off an incredible event. And I know that Guelph is going to as well. And I want to touch on something that you said when I talked to you recently, just about how, the bid process changed and the CHL has tried to make this a thing that's a lot more plausible for maybe some smaller, less traditional markets, let's say, to host this thing. And Saginaw certainly fit that bill. What sort of things did you learn going down to that and picking up from them? Because they ended up pulling off an incredible event. They won it, and we would love to see the Storm
Yeah.
do that too,
Yeah.
obviously. But what are some things about the way that they did it that you went down and said, man, that's a great point, and we need to incorporate that?
I've been to 7 Memorial Cups. I think as a team, we've been to 4. This will be my 5th, which is a pretty good record too. I mean, I've been around since 1999, but 5 Memorial Cups, a real feather in the cap of this franchise. We went down there, and I think back to Kelowna and the Saginaw. The Saginaw was the same way. We got off the plane in Kelowna in 2004. In the airport, everywhere you were, it was obvious what was happening. The Memorial Cup was in town, and it was everywhere. Saginaw felt the same way. We were out at Birch Run doing, shopping in between games and stuff like that. And you go to the shops, and people had proud supporter of the Memorial Cup or welcome Memorial Cup fans. They had, they had charter buses everywhere, so you could go and see all, and they're very proud of that, not just Saginaw, but the whole mid-Michigan area. You could get on the charter buses and go virtually anywhere. Frankenmuth, same thing. And you went to Frankenmuth, which is a tourist spot, a unique tourist spot on its own. And you could not miss the fact that the Memorial Cup was in town. And that's I mean, that was the big takeaway for me is that everywhere you went, everywhere you turned, it was a Memorial Cup thing, which is about making it, again, back to it's more than just it's a fantastic hockey tournament. More than that, it's an opportunity to bring an entire community together, in their case, an entire region. And that's, I think, the one thing that we looked at and thought, wow, we got to do this. We have to do the same thing. We have to make it so that every kid that's in a school somewhere in Guelph for that 11 or 10 or 11 day period knows that Memorial Cup's going on. We have to do it so a lot of different employers, so that if you're at Stone Road Mall, you're walking through there and you're seeing somebody in pick a store with a Memorial Cup t-shirt on or something like that. So that if whether you even knew going into there, you're going to know when you leave that mall, or when you leave that restaurant, or when you leave, whatever, go up to Elora, same thing. You're going to know that Memorial Cup's in town, and you're not going to miss it. And it's not just going to be the 5,000 people that are loving the hockey and everything that we do outside with the Memorial Cup Street Fan Fest. It'll be everybody through a whole community, and that's the big takeaway. Like I said, with Saginaw, I mean, it was a huge plus that they made the finals and won it ultimately. And I mean, it's going to put the cherry on top of the whole thing. But even if that hadn't happened, if you were in Saginaw, there's no missing that the Memorial Cup was there.
Absolutely. And I think that that's such a key factor. Like, again, it's unique, I think, that this one is going to fall on such a big occasion for the city itself as well. I think that's a factor into it. I think that people have made a lot of that being a key factor. I think it's a supplementary factor.
Yeah.
I think it's just a cool additive thing because the CHL's not concerned with that. Like there are people saying, "Oh, they got it because the birthday." That's not true. It's an additive thing that
Yeah.
you guys blended into your presentation, which was a unique advantage, we'll call it. And again, I don't know because I didn't see it. I didn't see the Kitchener bid. I'm sure it was fantastic. We're talking about a great historic hockey market there. But for you to see this come through for the Royal City and all the different things that you guys mixed in, you've touched on some of the details already, the popcorn and having Dan Girardi and Dan Paye there to talk to the committee, the River Run Center right across the road. There are a lot of advantages that people never maybe considered in certain areas that Guelph has that you guys really were able to lean into. Walk us through some of them and what that presentation looked like over that 4 hours.
Yeah, and I'm not going to bore you with to go through what the rubric is, but the rubric was a big part of it. And when you break that out, they had four things, four different criteria. And I'm looking at it. So if you see me looking off screen here, business operations, local atmosphere, special events. I mean, that's where your 200 ties in. Community engagement, event logistics, hockey operations. So we looked at each of those and said we need a plan, and we need to find what our competitive advantages are. And I'm going to guess there's one city that probably thought we didn't have any competitive advantages. And you hear that again as you hear a little bit of the noise. How could they possibly have competitive advantage? Well, I'll tell you, we do. I mean, you walk, and we said in 200 years, we've used the 200 steps. I mean, start where I'm sitting right now in my office. You go 200 steps. You've got a GO train service that connects millions of people all day, not all day, but 7 days a week, where people can come to our event by hopping on a GO train. There's no other place. I mean, everybody has a train station. I'll tell you, it's not right across the street from the arena. Same thing via rail, right across from the arena. Bus service, regional bus service, and also bus service hub. And that's part of the downtown, right? I mean, you can go from any part of our city, hop on a bus, and end up downtown. It's not just take the bus to the arena. It's every bus goes to the arena. I mean, that's a big thing when we looked at logistics. And then we started looking at spacing. And we're the mall rats, right? We're hooked onto a mall. We're locked into this space. And we knew that having hosted the top prospects game in 2017, I probably got the year wrong, whatever year that was, that we had limitations, and we thought, how can we work around those limitations? The space limitations, we worked around there. So I mean, nobody would have thought of it, but we walked over to what's now the Conestoga College campus, which is the old Cooperatives building, which will become our media center. It's 16,000 square feet that's vacant right now. We're going to take that and make it into, like I said, our media center, potentially more as well. It hooks right in through a pedestrian bridge. And I'm going to tell you, if people didn't know that was here, they wouldn't realize that space was open to us. I mean, that's a huge, huge, huge plus. We're not putting anybody in tents outside the building. We're not taking a VIP hospitality area and putting them into tents. We're not putting a media area and putting them under a tent. It's all going to be weatherproofed. It's all going to be done. So we started working through that again. That gets into that the event logistics and I'm sure I missed other stuff. And then even when we tie in everybody's got the military history and John McCrae. I can tell you that the 5 people that were on that tour did not know the significance of John McCrae to this community. And the last stop that we had was, it was to the John McCrae house, but it was also to say, this is our path, this is our arrival of the Cup route. Our plans with the arrival of the Cup, and it was the only time they had to get on the bus, and that was part of our cell. Like again, everything's right here. We don't have to go anywhere. But we hopped on this limo bus and took the small shuttle bus and took them down to John McCrae house. And when we unloaded, we had the pipe and drum band playing, and it was just recorded sounds, but it was something where they got on, and again, everybody's looking around trying to find out where this pipe and drum band is. And that is, again, to simulate or emulate what our arrival of the Cup will be. It's going to be a parade that will go through a gorgeous park, Royal City Park along that trail. We'll be able to bring in schools, we'll be able to bring in fans, and it's going to be unique to this city. That will end, it'll go by the Sacred Fire, again, which is important. It's important to be able to recognize Indigenous soldiers in a lot of cases. And I know that it's the first time I'd heard it, but there is a Remembrance Day now for Indigenous soldiers that started in Winnipeg. I think it's 2 or 3 days ahead of your traditional Remembrance Day. But it's an opportunity to use that Sacred Fire and tie that into this as well and say, look, this is how we properly recognize the commitment, the Indigenous soldiers that served our country. When a lot of people scratch their head and say, why did you serve a country that wasn't good to you? And then the Indigenous say, no, we served it for a reason. And I think we see that Sacred Fire as that opportunity. So you parade through there, you go eventually to the John McCrae house, which has all of the meaning as well. And it is, when you look at the poppy, it's I mean, one of the greatest symbols of remembrance they're out there. And you walk through that museum. I had never been there, truthfully. I went in there a few months ago or a month ago and walked through it. It's a powerful spot and really well done. And a great tribute to not only John McCrae, obviously, but the poem in Flanders Fields. So obviously that would be connected. So we took them through there and we had somebody speak on the legacy and what the significance of John McCrae to Guelph as a community, again, to tie in the Memorial Cup. As we left there, again, we had the sounds of the Trews playing with Highway of Heroes. So we have booked the Trews to play, or we've confirmed the Trews availability to book the Trews to play as part of that opening ceremony. So they would play, the Thursday night for the big concert, but during the day we would have them as part of that ceremony, which would be a free concert essentially in Riverside Park. So as they stepped out of that thing again, they're hearing a different song. They're hearing a really great acoustic version of Highway of Heroes that they played at Juno Beach, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And again, they're looking around trying to find out what the meaning of it is at this point, because they're catching just kind of little details that we placed here and there. I want to say Easter eggs, but along those lines. And they're catching what we're doing with this. So what does this have to do with it? And we say, well, the reason this is playing is because as people wrap up the ceremony, we'll have a band, a great Canadian band with a song that has a profound meaning to so many people playing off in this great green space, open to everybody. And I mean, we're hoping that, you have a couple thousand people there watching, taking in the arrival of the Memorial Cup. So, I mean, it was little details like that. And again, like I said, we had, I think as we were wrapping up, people going, man, the details, the little things that you guys hit on. It was just they don't always work, but I'll tell you, if you don't ever take a swing at it, they never work. We did it, and again with a great group and kind of and some good leadership, we were able to pull it all off to where it was 4 hours, but I don't think it felt like 4 hours to any of them, and it certainly didn't feel like 4 hours to our group. And I think we hit on, going back to your original question, we hit on all the competitive advantages that we have as a team in our market, that we saw as an opportunity to make this a unique event, an event that includes a diverse audience, and an audience that's representative not just of hockey fans, but representative of Guelph, which is important to us as well.
I'm not surprised to hear any of this, Matt, because, as I've gotten to know you and the staff over the years, I mean, I really feel like you guys are second to none in terms of the creative juices that flow within the front office of this organization. I mean, I see it firsthand. I'm there every home game. And I'm glad that you've kind of touched and dug into some of the ancillary details, if you will, surrounding the pitch, because from a hockey operation standpoint, I mean, unless you're living under a rock and you've never been to the Sleeman Center, never watched a Guelph Storm game on television, and I mean, you're poorer for it, you should
Right.
definitely come down. I don't think you really need to explain to anybody on here the hockey operation side of things. It runs so smoothly. It's one of the best shows in the entire league. I would say in the entire country. I've been to a lot of rinks. Like, from the hockey op side and the entertainment side of things, there's really no explanation
Right.
needed there. I felt like you guys already were, kicking the ball down the court, if you will. And hey, if anywhere the Trues are, you'll find me there. So that's pretty awesome. It's just incredible the stuff that you've been able to build into this. There's one thing, and I want to touch on this. This kind of ties into like the creative factor, and that's something that I feel like the team is starting to embrace, and I want you guys to embrace it even more. The Mall Rats moniker. I mean, a lot of people that were negative about the bid were like, "Oh, the arena's in a mall." It actually, if you've been, it's a tremendous advantage. There is parking, by the way. I park in it every single
We
game.
fill the building and people manage to park. It's remarkable.
Yeah, remarkable stuff. There's two giant parking structures, so
Three, counting the
don't.
one that's 5 minutes. Well, I would guess,
That's
without pointing
true.
fingers, the walk from our arena to the Market Street Parkade is probably equidistant to the walk from, say, Kitchener Memorial Auditorium to the corner of their parking lot. It's probably pretty close to what the
I
distance is to Market Street. But anyways, continue. I
I
digress. I don't want
I agree. But this mall rats thing,
to.
okay, so we've already seen some interesting stuff happen with the Royal City jock
Yeah,
straps.
yeah.
Is there something in the works maybe here where we embrace this mall rats moniker? Can we get the boys rollerblading in the Quebec Street Mall or something, a la Mighty Ducks? Like, I'm sure you heard mall rats and started going,
It
what can we
came to
do
me
with this?
just like jockstraps was not me. It came to me from Brandon and Hunter that said, "Are you onto this? And you're onto this?" And it took me a sec just because I had a bunch of other stuff going on. I'm like, yeah, that's who we are. I mean, we are what you are, what you are. And it's, I mean, the mall. I mean, back to the question before that. The mall is a big part of our presentation. Like, we're going to have a street festival essentially in this unique mall space, which is built to look like a street. It's indoor. It's not again. It's not in a tent somewhere. It's not at a building. It's not in a side rink. It's in this really cool, unique space, and that was part of our tour, where we stood there and said, "You see this? We're going to have two giant screens that allows people to allow people to watch the game or allow us to run other programming we're having on site, and enjoy this unique festival on what's a street." So that mall is part of who we are. Like I said, if we're mall rats and people want to, you know, make it sound like it's a negative, we'll run. We love it. And it's part of what makes us unique. And I'll tell you, if you've ever lined up to get into, you said you've been to a lot of arenas. If you've ever lined up to get into the arena in the middle of the winter, in pick a rink in Canada, I'll tell you where I'd rather be lined up would be in this mall, and ready to come into a game and not in the freezing cold.
I
Just me though.
completely agree. Another advantage, market down there. All of a sudden, they're piling up now.
Yeah.
The advantages. No, I completely agree, and I'm so excited for the franchise. And also there's it's funny, like people saying, well, what's the I even heard the Overdrive guys talking about it because Jeff O'Neill, of course, very famous Storm alumni, all-time leading scorer, and he wants to be involved. I know,
Yep.
TSN will be there, and the O-Dog's already, I think he's already naming himself like unofficial parade master. That'll be a lot of fun. The alumni will be involved. It's interesting in that the team, the city, if you're not aware, like has a lot of history, not only with this tournament, but winning the cup. 1952, the Guelph Biltmore Mad Hatters. I know I'm cranking the clock back for some people. 1986, the Guelph Platers, also Memorial Cup champions. And I'm excited to see the 2027 Guelph Storm hopefully win the first one in franchise history, but it would be the third one in the city's history. And look, there are some professional level teams, Matt. And you know this. We're not going to name which team that might be. There are some pro level like NHL teams that lean a lot on past history, right? So it's there, and Guelph's an incredible community. You're a huge part of making this team an incredible part of the community and this franchise. And I'll just end by asking, for yourself, and all of your staff that you were highlighting at the start, and George and the ownership group and Scott Walker and everybody, all the proud alumni. We just retired Dustin Brown's jersey. I'm sure he'll be around. Like, what's it mean to you to see this all come to fruition and know that in 18 months' time, we're going to be hosting the biggest thing in junior hockey?
It's everything, I think, and I mean, so much of it is, and you talked about the owners, and it goes beyond. This is a discussion for another one of these one day. The owners have always allowed us to run this as a team first and foremost, rather than a business. And growing up, you talked about, that other team that likes to lean on history. I wasn't growing up with an IBM hat on. I had a Maple Leafs hat on, and it's because it's a team that I cheered for, and sometimes it's unfair that these teams are decided. Well, no, I'm a business when it comes to making money. Our owners have allowed us to make decisions where if you were to sit purely on a business, and look at it as a business, say the ROI doesn't make sense. But you say, you know what, big picture, this is something that's going to be, the team's going to be stronger for the next 10, 20 years because of it. So all of it, I mean, but it kind of, we're lucky in that way with the ownership again, this goes back through 3 groups that I've been part of. What it means to the whole thing is exactly what it was. It was an opportunity, win or lose, that I had 4 hours to kind of brag about Guelph. I had 4 hours to brag about the team. I had 4 hours to say, look, we've had 6 Memorial Cups in 30 years, or 30, whatever it is, 34 years. There's only one team in the entire CHL that's been to more Memorial Cups in that time than we have. And 4 OHL championships, one team that's been to more. So I think if there's a learning point here, it's Guelph. You can brag about who we are. I mean, brag about the Storm. I mean, the last few years haven't been representative of those 34 on the ice, but brag about our community, brag about the Mall Rat, brag about this arena, and brag about it's. We walked through it. I think the day after, it was the Windsor, or maybe that day, the Windsor radio guy was in front of me, and he turned, and he may know who I am, maybe not, and he said, "Cleanest arena in the league." Brag about that. I mean, that's another thing that we should be proud of. I mean, this is an arena that's been well maintained, well looked after. There's so much to brag about. And those 4 hours, like I said, win or lose with this, we got to sit with 5 people we don't know and say, man, we're good. And this is why we're good, because this is what we do. And this is why we should get it, because this is who we are. And I think too much of our fan base sometimes, and too much, because we've got, maybe the little brother syndrome, loses sight of that. But I mean, be proud of everything we are, because it's what's bringing this event ultimately to Guelph, and it's going to make it a fantastic event for our city.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't say it much better than that. I think that's a good spot to leave it, man.
All right.
Matt, you're an incredibly busy guy. We're so excited and thankful that you could give us some time on the podcast to kind of deliver the message to fans. And I think if anybody watching this takes something away from it, it's that. It's be proud of Guelph, be proud of the Royal City, and be proud of our Guelph Storm. It's going to be an incredible event, man. Congratulations again to you and the entire staff. I see you guys all the time. I can't say it enough. Tremendous work. We're very proud of you, and you should be proud. Thank you for doing this, my friend.
Thanks. It's always fun. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody, remember you can find this podcast on YouTube, the team website, all your favorite podcast apps. And if you want to come down to the Sleeman Center, cleanest arena in the league, come watch the Mall Rats play. You can get tickets on the Guelph Storm website and, of course, the box office at the Sleeman Center, which will host the 2027 Memorial Cup. We'll be back next week with more Eye of the Storm.